Welcome back to the Shelf Talk podcast. I'm Oren, your host for today, and today we're diving into one of my favorite topics to talk about, collaboration. With me today is Petros Petropoulos, Senior Vice President, North America Retail, and together we'll explore the need for collaboration, its enablers, and the value for retailers. Hi, Petros. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here, Oren. Thank you for having me.
Petros, I'd like to begin by sharing some input I received only last week from one of our customers, a big North American retailer. There was one sentence they said that captured me, and it was, supplier collaboration is pure value. And I asked them why. They said it's pure value for them from two main reasons. One is for them as retailers being able to finally share data with suppliers in a standardized and clear manner, seeing greater results and funding from suppliers, and also generating an additional and very significant revenue stream from monetizing their data. But they also said it's a pure value for their suppliers from the fact that they can always get a real-time view of their performance, plan their business and trade budget, and actually the retailer testifies that suppliers who engaged with the collaboration platform and insight actually saw 8% better sales performance than others, which is, I'm sure, Petros, you'll agree, quite amazing. Let me maybe start with the why. My first question to you would be, why is this era of collaboration so important right now?
Yeah, well, before I jump into that, I'd like to do a brief introduction. I basically spent 20 years plus working across retailers who are customer obsessed, like Ace Hardware, where I started my career, worked in large strategic consulting firms like McKinsey and Deloitte, always focused on customer first growth initiatives and strategies. And then for the past 10 years or so, I've been really focused on data and analytics. And that's what brought me to NIQ and really harnessing the data and analytics to drive those customer centric growth strategies for my clients. When you ask the question about what's changed, why is this even more important now? And what I've seen over the course of my career is that customers have so many more choices now. There's an explosion of options, of brands. The customers want to have very specific ingredients. They want to have very specific functional benefits. They can find it with the tip of their fingers on their phone, on their computer, on the shelves of their favorite retailer. And so it really is something that is, more and more challenging for retailers to do on their own, to analyze what is making their customers happy, what is driving the customer behavior, because it's getting so much more nuanced. And so with retailers having such an immense amount of data about their customers, visits, frequency, what items and brands they're picking up, how these things are changing over time, combined with the suppliers' data of what they're seeing in terms of product development, innovation, ingredients. These two things combined with the right data science and a platform that allows both of these parties, suppliers and retailers, to have one version of truth. That's why it's so important now, because of this evolution of what the customers could see. And I think just kind of getting back to your story about the pure value that you mentioned, these collaboration programs, people talk about the monetization of them, but the real value is on driving the growth. That growth is good for the retailer, but it's also good for the supplier. But more importantly, it's really good for the customer who will find the products or the offers or the promotions that really excite them. And so that's the key part of this win-win-win offering that a collaboration is meant to be.
Great, Petros, thanks. So if I follow your thinking, one of the key benefits of this new collaboration era is shared data. So that's when retailers and suppliers collaborate around one single source of truth. This makes them make smarter, faster decisions, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the retailers have a ton of data, and that data, like I mentioned, it brings them really close to the consumers, even in a world where there's, higher growth and direct-to-customer business, direct-to-consumer business for suppliers, at least in the CPG world. So much of the business is still through retail. And so having that data that is shareable is really important. But also, I think, if you've sat in category reviews or joint business planning sessions with a retailer and a CPG company, oftentimes they're really looking to understand what is the version of truth, whose data is correct, what biases might somebody be bringing into the process if they're only surveying certain customer segments or demographics, et cetera. And so having a collaboration program where the analytics, the data is not only transparent, but is agreed upon between the parties, really makes that decision-making process a lot quicker when you're not trying to dissect, if this data is accurate or not, because it is something that's already preordained by the retailer, I think is super important. Other thing that collaboration really helps with making faster, better decisions is when you look at the scale. Think about a retail category manager. They might have a large category that has dozens or hundreds of brands and hundreds, if not thousands, of products, and they might not be their only category. So they don't have the time to analyze all of the key questions, especially when it comes to smaller but emerging trends. And so that's where, these CPG companies, because they may be focused on a single brand in that category or a smaller amount of products, and they're getting data across the entire globe when it comes to that category, they're able to really bring much more focus. And so the retailer might set the strategy of what kind of customers they're going after and what that category's role should be at that store, but they really need help having the human resources that these suppliers can bring if you just arm them with the right data and analytics that will help you make a decision. And so that's the key part of collaboration. It's getting more eyeballs on the right data to bring insights faster versus a category manager who just won't have the time.
Absolutely, Petros. That's a very interesting point of view, which leads me to kind of the second topic I wanted to talk about, which is another huge trend in the industry, personalization. Consumers today expect personalized experience at any touch point. We all know that, but how do you get there? And how does the link to retailer and supplier collaboration work when it comes to personalization?
When I think about personalization, you mentioned really every interaction, whether it's personalized promotions, whether it's personalized prices, personalized advertising in the form of retail media, things like that. I think all of those things have been part of the industry for some time, but becoming more and more real and more expected by consumers. I know I just talked about sort of unlocking collaboration through the human resources of suppliers who just have more scale and more focus on their brands. I think when it comes to personalization, I think one of the biggest unlocks over the last couple of years has been the boom in AI capabilities. And so, yeah, with personalization, you're not really going to, have the ability to have a person recommending the right item at the right time, at the right price for each individual consumer. But AI could really help bring, and it is bringing those type of recommendations in real time to all of these decisions because they know what the customers purchased in the past. They know much more about what they might be interested going forward based on all of the data that you can feed into these systems. And so to me, that is one of the biggest unlocks when it comes to personalization. We already have retail partners that are opening up platforms to their suppliers so that they can be part of the same workflow. They can put funding towards things like personalized offers, but are allowing the AI to do the recommendations and backing it up with measurement to show that these recommendations, if executed, are generating increased customer loyalty, increased customer spending, just, really what these campaigns are all about. It's really about giving customers a reward for behaving a way that, you want them to keep them around and to, try new things in different aisles of the store.
Thanks, Petros. So yeah, you mentioned AI, and of course, we can't really talk about data collaboration without mentioning technology, AI being a part of it. So the ability to share data in real time and derive actionable insights actually depends on having the right tech in place. Is that right?
Yeah, it's definitely a foundational element. It's definitely a key requirement. It has been for some time. I think technologies, like I mentioned, with things like AI are only becoming better and better, but for these type of collaboration programs, having a platform that has the best data available, has analytics that the retailer is actually going to use to make key assortment, promotion, and other category decisions is super important and really meant to stop the debate of whose data is better and really get to what are the insights that will make the customer happier and achieve that customer growth strategy. To be honest, I feel like even though the technology is improving so quickly and they're able to do so much more, it's also not the most important thing. I feel like sometimes retailers want to launch collaboration programs and they think it is just about the technology and they forget about some of the change management. They forget about changing the metrics at which they're measuring their performance from just a sales perspective to a customer perspective. They're not necessarily mandating these new technological tools are being used, and sometimes they're letting other data come into these discussions. So I think technology is very important, but it is not the only important thing, I would say. And the other thing I would say is, like, with this, trend that I mentioned and that everyone's talking about for the last couple of years in AI, it also changes the dynamics. In prior collaboration, yeah, it was a lot about getting more and more resources from the CPGs and suppliers to utilize this data sets and to analyze and bring insights in. I think that's definitely going to still be really important, especially because these suppliers have expertise, they have other data sets, they have funding to actually make changes in the categories. But, AI will be able to be creating a lot of these insights and doing a lot of these recommendations without person on either side. And so I think these collaboration programs are evolving, and I know, ours at NIQ are evolving in that way so that the AI agents can really help both parties understand what to do and take action quicker.
Right. Petros, after talking about all of this great value that retailers can get out of collaboration programs, the question that comes to my mind is, how come there are still retailers out there who do not have a collaboration program?
That's a really, really good question, Oren. And I think definitely there, is a scale part of the answer, and that for smaller retailers, there may not be as much interest from their suppliers, or suppliers may not even call on them directly. There might be brokers and things like that in between. And so it may not be possible for them to have a large collaboration program. It may not be possible for them to monetize. That being said, I think they should consider adopting some of these platforms and giving away the data to suppliers for free, because it will generate better insights and growth. For the large retailers, there are definitely large retailers who could have a very large collaboration program and monetize successfully, but have chosen not to. And I think, the reasons that they usually provide are because they believe, and I think that incorrectly, but I understand their beliefs, is that they think sharing this data will put them at a disadvantage. They feel like, they want to maintain negotiating power over their suppliers and know more about the customers than the suppliers do. They believe that these funds that may come in from monetization will come out of their trade budgets and really, be money out of one pocket into another pocket. Having done this for the last, many years and worked with many retailers, I think that while there are shades of truth, most of these are myths and instances of really large retailers who resisted this, but now, because of the competitive pressures, because of the missed opportunity, they have launched collaboration programs. And I think every retailer should really take a hard look at doing this and question some of these myths that they may have had internally for so long.
If data is the new currency, are retailers undervaluing their biggest asset?
I think sometimes they are, Oren, but I feel like this has been something that has been around in retail for a long time. And I think that some retailers are undervaluing their assets in terms of the leverage that they're getting out of it, the uses they're getting out of it, in terms of making sure that it is a key part of all of their, decisions in their category management processes and their marketing process. I think sometimes they aren't getting the full value out of their data asset. That being said, I think that retailers have read so much about data monetization. Retail media has been such a, hot topic for so many years now in the industry, that I actually think that retailers also, some of them think that it is easy and they could just get a new revenue stream from their data and it's going to be some huge number. And I think that both of those things can be true, and that, like, it's not a piggy bank. And to get the value, you really need to make it more executable. You need to make it part of your decisions. You need to make it part of your strategy. And so I think there's two sides of that coin in terms of retailers' view of the value of their data.
Absolutely. Very interesting, Petros. Thank you very much. Well, I think we can safely summarize by saying, if you're a retailer or a supplier looking to thrive in this competitive landscape, collaboration isn't just the future, it's the present, right? And those who embrace it will be the ones who come out on top. Thanks for joining us today, Petros. It was an absolute pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Oren. Anytime.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this podcast with your network. And if you want more insight like this, follow us on LinkedIn for the latest trends and strategies that are shaping the future of retail. And until next time, keep collaborating.